All right, welcome back to the Moment Makers podcast. So it's just me doing this one. I've got Tyler Davidson here. We're just gonna chat a little bit. He's in quarantine as well, so we're kind of just talking to whoever and anybody that we can. Of course, Tyler's not just anybody. He's a musician, a bartender, does a lot of cool stuff, and we'll kind of get into who he is. Tyler, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Tyler Davidson. I'm a Lewisburg, West Virginia native. I've lived here pretty much my whole life and known Brennan for quite a bit of that time. And um, I'm a bartender here. I run a bar in Lewisburg. It's at the General Lewis Inn Hotel. Um, and I've been playing music for probably about since I was like 16 or so. And that was right about when I met you, Brennan. It was
Yeah.
about that time when I started playing music. And then um, I play rarely now because around here it doesn't really pay the bills as
Yeah.
much as bartending does. But I still like to play whenever I can, and people really seem to enjoy the show. So try to put them out as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we've played a few in a couple bands together,
Mm-hmm.
on and off over the years.
Yeah,
We both kind of got our start playing in church,
for sure.
and we don't have to go into any of that, but it's interesting how we both got into church and music together, and now it doesn't seem like any of our friend group really goes to church anymore. Um,
No, not so much, but it does. People starting off in band settings in
mhm.
churches is so um,
Super common.
yeah, it's so common, and if you really think about it, it makes sense because it's such
Hmm.
an open environment for people to be in a band and
Yeah,
have that band setting,
yeah,
and you know, uh, to the graces of people who go to church and pastors and youth pastors that are so generous with equipment and support and
hmm,
time like that. It's just such an inviting environment to
yeah.
do something like that and to get started. So and if you're getting fed a little bit along the way, more power to you. Why not?
Um, so how's your quarantine been? How long have you been officially not working and in quarantine
um,
for?
I think it's day 17, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we,
So
we,
you
we
you got
started.
quite a few more days than me.
Yeah, we started pretty early. I live in a house with two of my good friends. They're both professional musicians as well, um, and we started Tuesday 2 weeks ago. So
Okay.
yeah, and that was the day that they shut down restaurants and everything. So that was my last day of
Gotcha.
work. Um, so yeah, we're just binging a lot of shows and
Tiger King.
yeah, we of course we watched Tiger King and
Yeah.
just trying to keep busy as much as we can. They're very fit people, so they've been working out around the house and doing a lot of like home workouts and stuff. They have
Gotcha.
a good hookup for a home workout personal trainer. His name is Willpower Strength.
Okay.
So if you guys are looking for a nice in-house workout program, look him up. But yeah, we're just trying to do everything we can to stay busy and try to donate and do different activities to try and help out wherever we can while still being safe and healthy
Yeah.
and all those things. What have you guys been doing?
So I've been unofficially quarantined for a week now. I had a week of vacation that I took, and then I officially got laid off yesterday. So
Yeah.
today's my official second day of um, quarantine, but I've been here for a week and almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Um, so it's crazy. We're we're going stir crazy because I've got two girls and
Yeah.
my wife and Tristan's brother's living with us now. So
Right.
it's a full house,
Yeah.
and we
Jeez.
just got two puppies right before they officially quarantined
Hmm.
themselves here. So it's been a full house. It's been crazy.
Wow. 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 Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have that quality time with family and
Hmm.
everything. But gosh, it's gotta it you know.
It wouldn't be so. I enjoy the time, and I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it'd be better if we had places to go and things to do.
Yeah.
Um, like take the kids to the park, but we don't want to go to the park. We can't take them on the swings and stuff because everything's blocked off. So
Yeah.
it's a weird time we're living in. It's
Yep.
strange. So kind of
Well,
feels like a movie.
it's a good opportunity to be creative, especially
Yeah.
with having kids and whatnot. And,
Yeah.
people often think that creativity has to be such a specific area of like, oh, my job is this, so I need to be creative in this way. Like now you get chances to be creative in many,
Yeah.
many other ways.
Well, and that's something that me and Eli talked about yesterday. Is so we recorded a podcast yesterday. We put it out yesterday. Um, Through this time, and it's something that we can kind of go more into talking together. But we talked about it yesterday. How now is the time that people are kind of alone with their thoughts, and they're
Yeah.
able to think more. They're not busy, so they're not
Yeah.
able to keep their mind off of the things that they don't want to think about.
Yeah.
So now's the time that you kind of deal with those skeletons in the closet, or however you want to describe it, and then move past it and build yourself for your future. So like if you want to, like you as a bartender, you could just be watching bartending videos and hone your skills as much as you can over the next however long we're quarantined for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Me as a podcaster, doing more podcasts is the best way to get better at doing podcasts. So that's my goal, is to do at least 2 or 3 a week so that we
Yeah.
have content going out, and I can hone my skills doing that a little bit better. So that's where we're at with it. And that's what we were kind of talking about yesterday. So um, I don't know. Do you have? I don't. We didn't really have any plans on what this episode was going to be about. We were just kind of just going to chat. What are your thoughts on, I guess, Moment Makers as a whole, and kind of the direction of the podcast and the brand and all? Because you're wearing a Sparrow shirt, so that's always good.
I gotta represent. Yeah, man. I think what you guys are doing is honestly, it's been something that has been unofficially in the works, I think, for you guys for a very long time.
Hmm.
And getting to the point now where you guys are like established mentally enough to want to talk about these things
Hmm.
and to do something about it and try to provide a service almost, is really inspiring, honestly, to be able to just be free and open about talking about things that, especially as like, guys like us our age, it's just something that we often, don't, don't usually talk about, and it's usually like shamed to talk about.
Repressed. Yeah.
It's like, bro, let's get emotional. It's like, no, it's not. So
Yeah.
it's really nice. It's inspiring. So I try to tune into the podcast as much as I can. It's nice to hear from old friends, even though it's not a face to face, obviously, right now in this time. So I think honestly, right now, during this quarantine is a prime opportunity for you to be putting out as much content as
Yeah.
you are. Because people are going stir crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard to find ways to keep your mind busy so you don't drive yourself crazy from silence and sitting in your thoughts for no good reason.
So I guess kind of keeping on the topic of the podcast, and going in with mental health, being a musician, you have to have some level of issues that you have to get out through writing or through singing or
Sure.
through music, whatever. How can you kind of shed light on that for other
Sure.
people kind of in similar positions?
Yeah. So for me personally, every time someone comes to one of my shows, and they see me play live, they're like, Tyler, like that is a different person that was on stage. Like
Yeah.
you whenever I see you in person, we hang out, you're like you're mainly just like a chill person, who just wants to like hang out and get a social drink on and things like that. And then when I play music, it's a escape for
Hmm.
my personality is, I take a lot of things and I bottle them up, and I know that I shouldn't, and they come out in ways like that, where it's it's almost like I hone it into a performance.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have that release.
Release. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and many people find that in many different ways. Um, but it's very important that those ways are healthy.
Yeah.
And not, deteriorating of your personality or people around
Mm-hmm.
you. So for
Well, and
me,
that's
it's
and it's evident in your writing too, because just the few songs that I can recall, and I went to your show a couple weeks ago, where we took some of those photos for Sparrow,
yeah,
um, which I mean it was too loud to really hear anything, but I remember when we played that show New Year's Day at the hub underneath Hill and Holler,
yeah,
that song that you wrote about. I think it was your dad that you wrote it about, and we don't have to go into that song necessarily, but it shows itself in your writing
yeah,
how you deal with those things
right,
internally, kind of externally on paper and
mhm,
through words and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think that perspective is really cool.
yeah. It's 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 a healthy way to talk about things that have happened in my life that I wouldn't necessarily want to just like, for my personality, I can't just like go up to someone and be like, or a good friend, even if they are a really close friend, I can't just go up to them and be like, hey, I'm going through something. Can you talk to me? It's
Yeah.
not a very easy thing to do. And
Hmm.
it's extremely, for me, just makes me feel, vulnerable. It's not a feeling
Yeah.
that I like. So having a way to express that, um, through music and making it whether it be like witty or just poetic or aggressive or anything like that. Any way I want to shed light on it is what I'll do. Um, and it's just nice to have the freedom to do that and being able to be on stage and be like, hey, this is what I went through,
Yeah.
and thanks for listening. So yeah, it's just it's a nice way to talk about it. It's
Yeah.
for me, it's for that song specifically. I always say before I play that song, I'm always like, this one goes out to the best dad I ever had, and that was my mom.
Yeah.
um, so and it's not like he went to the grocery store and never came back when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
he left later on in my life. He kind of drove off with someone who I went to high school with, which was kind of
Oh
like a really
wow.
hard thing.
Hmm.
When I was about 18, and people take that in different ways. People go through those experiences in different ways. If it for people with the common story of someone leaving their life, it's usually when they're younger,
Hmm.
and those um, those feelings develop over time and they turn into different things, and that's
Yeah.
uh, people will react to specific things in certain ways, and they don't realize that it's because of past traumas and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, happening at such a later age, um, having that happen to me, it to me it was just him saying, "There's nothing left for me here. I don't want this life anymore. I'm leaving." And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, that sucks. Like me as a developed person to like have someone be like, I'm done with you
Yeah.
and this life.
Peace
I'm
out.
gonna go have a different life. Um,
Hmm.
it was like, wow, that makes me feel like shit, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm thankful that it happened at that time because I can
Hmm.
see it in a mature way and
In
be
a
like,
different perspective. Yeah.
yeah, from a different perspective. If that happened when I was like, I don't know, 14 or 16, in my teen rage,
Yeah.
who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
But in that light, I was thankful for it to happen at that time. Um, and a lot of things have happened since then, and I'm just glad to see it in the mature way that I was able to.
So talking more about that, if you're comfortable talking about that
Yeah,
a
of
little
course.
bit more in depth.
I'm an
So
open
that
book
happened when
for
you're
you, bro.
about, what's that?
I'm an open book just for you, Brennan.
Okay, sweet. So being that happened around 18, you're about 24, 25 now.
I just turned 24 last week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, happy birthday.
it was a
I
quarantine
forgot that
birthday.
I texted you last week, so that um I turned 25 this month, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So being that happened at 18, that's about 6 years difference from then to now, how initially did you process it, and being that you were developed then and able to process things a lot more
Mm-hmm.
maturely versus now?
Well, in the time that it was happening, it was very like a lot of anger from having someone just say, you know, this sounds extremely dramatic, but being like, I don't want you anymore. I want to be with this person. I'm gonna go start a life with this person. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But at that time, he was in and out of the house a lot, just like
Mm-hmm.
leaving for like a whole weekend out of nowhere and be like, oh, I was on work. I'm like, you work in a warehouse? Yeah, I don't think that really lines up. But what he was really doing was, leaving, going off to a different, city, staying a weekend with this girl, and then coming back and then just trying to brush it off. So I was like, I was able to put some shit together and be like, okay, this is what was happening here. So at the time, I was able to kind of put the pieces together, and when it actually happened, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of saw
That
this
makes
coming.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of saw this coming, not as aggressively and as sudden as it is happening. I saw it coming. And of course, when it did happen back when I was 18, I was very angry about it. Just resentful against him, and just so many things. And now it's such a yeah, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. It's such an empty space in
Gotcha.
my head and in my heart of like, I'll talk about it. I don't mind explaining what happened, but I just at this point don't really care because
Yeah.
it's been 6 years now, and I've never had to reach out to him, ask him for a dime or advice or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just kind of proof to me. Be like, I mean, if you're better off, maybe I'm better off too. Um, and it hurts to say that because he was a good dad growing up. Like
Mm-hmm.
I loved him so much growing up. He was a great dad. But people change, and that's his choice, and I can't say that I respect it, but it's his choice, and
Yeah.
that's what he wanted to do. And there since then, here in the past year or so, he has been trying to kind of get back into my life, and um, maybe it's a character flaw of I don't know how to forgive because I
Yeah.
was like, no, you made your choice, you just sit in it, made your bed. Um, so now I, I guess it's a reaction that's similar to
Mm-hmm.
back then because I'm not really angry, but I'm just like, I've accepted it, and it is what it is,
Yeah.
and I don't really want to go through the like emotional stress and strain of trying to like reconcile.
Rebuild that. Yeah.
Exactly, it's just not worth it to me.
Gotcha.
Because I got my mom, and she's pretty dope. So
She is dope. She is a wonderful woman.
she is.
um, around that time, and being that we both kind of knew each other through church, we went to the same churches, just about every church that we went to here in Lewisburg. Were you still in church at that time? Is that part of the reason that you kind of fell away from going to church, or is it just kind of a coincidental thing that happened also?
No, I think the timing was definitely coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a lot of things that happened in my life, while I was in church,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that the events of my life um, were related to the time that I was in
Gotcha.
church. It was just, I was going to church, and these are the things that are happening in my life. Just everybody has different,
Yeah.
everybody has things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has something going on, um, and that's why it's also really important not to outwardly and overly react to someone who is being rude, or you never
Yeah.
know what. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
I've come across. Being a bartender is when you're a bartender, people are there for some kind of reason.
Yeah.
Whether it be happy, sad, remorseful, regret. Something's going on. So no matter if somebody's like being that way towards you, being a certain way towards you, you shouldn't take it too personally. You
Yeah.
really don't know what's going on in their life, and just always try to be available to put yourself in their shoes and try to see it from their perspective, whatever their perspective is. Anyways, getting off track about, not leaving the church. Honestly, I have the most respect for many religions, especially Christianity. There's a lot of wonderful people that I met in the church and that I still hang out with, and have normal conversations with, and even non-religious conversations. I have the utmost respect for those people that I met in that time. But for me personally, I just found that the more I really researched the religion and read the Bible, I just found personally that I disagreed with a lot of it.
Gotcha.
And that may sound appalling to some of my devout friends, but yeah, I respect them for wanting to have a relationship with Christ and go that route. 100% do that. I think you should. But for me, the more I paid attention to what was going on around me and reading more and just studying more, I was like, I feel like that's a mental development thing. When you're young and when you're a teenager, it's really easy to be reeled into that and be like, this is the way, you're going to love it. You're like, you're right, I do love this. And that's awesome. All for it. I had a wonderful time. And you can attest to that too. It was some of the best years of my life. But I just, like I said, the more I researched it, the more I just personally didn't agree with the do's and don'ts of religion in general. I for me personally, I don't believe that you have to subscribe to a religion. It's like, oh, what are your beliefs? I don't think I have to have that personally. I 100% believe, not believe. I 100% respect people who have beliefs, because I think that's an amazing thing to have and to hold on to. I think it makes you you find things that you want to improve on with yourself through religion, and it's like, oh, I wish I could be less stressful about the situation at work, and this Bible verse helps me through that.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that, but it's just not how.
It's just not for you.
Yeah, it's not. I just don't agree with that religion or a lot of religions, and people are like, well, doesn't that make you atheist? And I'm like, no, because I just feel like that's like permanently like a title that I have to hold on to and be like, oh yeah. I'm an atheist. I don't know who, like, I don't know what that means. I don't care enough. Like, I don't think.
For a lack of a better way of saying it, you just don't really think about it anymore.
Yeah, this is a really weird way to put it, but there's a lot of things that I just don't waste my time thinking about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, pay the bills or make me happy. So
completely understand that. And that's the purpose of this was not to like drill you about Christianity, because we're not a Christian podcast. It's not a Christian brand. It's a brand about mental health. Christianity seems to fall into that vein a lot. And I do go to church, but it's not the kind of thing that
you're on camera, dude.
I do go to church, but it's not the kind of thing that we, as our family, breathe down people's throats. There's a lot of stuff that we don't agree with personally, that a lot of churches that we've been to have their own doctrine and theology that just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with growing up and kind of developing your personality and who you are more. Really, the purpose of asking was because through times like what you went through when you were 18 with your dad, people either turn to religion or turn from religion. Yeah. And it's unique in your case that it wasn't an effect either way. For a lot of people, if you were in church at the time, that would be the straw that broke the camel's back that would turn you away from religion and into other things. And it seems like even though you didn't have, or you weren't involved with that stuff, you still found healthy ways to deal with your mental health and staying sane through it all, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. No, I feel you. It's something that me and a lot of my close friends who know about the situation, we can just like, openly talk about it or joke about it. And even though that seems a little sadistic and twisted, I make jokes about a lot of weird and sick things. It's just it's just my personality. But there's I like you said, I don't think there is a correlation of even though it is extremely common, that event in my life and another event in my life being leaving the church. It was just, coincident, because I didn't really leave the church until I was close to like 20 years old, I would say.
Okay.
So a couple of years after it had happened. So yeah, it was just me, and I really think every person is a product of events that have happened in their life.
100%.
And that can be on top of an astrological sign or whatever you want to believe. But yeah, you are. I think you're just a product of what's happened in your life and the people around you who you trust and who you love, who can teach you and mentor you and guide you on how to properly react. Meaning, like parents and mom and things of that nature.
My wife walked in. So kind of going away from all of that and to where you are now. So music's not a huge part of your life anymore, even though it is still part of your life.
Yeah.
It's not the main thing that you do as that kind of therapy. What is it that you do now? Is bartending kind of your way of releasing that stress or what you have bottled up inside now, or?
Well, I would say bartending is more a gain of stress almost than it is the service industry. However, I do love my job. There are a lot of different styles of bartending. There's like pubs and dive bars. You have like flair bartenders and cocktail crafty kind of people. So basically, my job is the place I work is really the only craft cocktail bar in southern West Virginia.
Gotcha.
We have been featured in many magazines and books and podcasts and articles and things of the such. I've had the reins of that bar for a while now, and probably about two and a half years I've been running the bar program there. But we really just take it to a whole other culinary craft, take it to a whole other level. Everything we do behind the bar, if we can make it, we make it ourselves.
Awesome.
Any kind of, I'm going to throw some words out there that many people may not be aware of, but some people may. Anything of like a bitters, liqueur, vermouth, cordial, amaro, milks, orgeat, anything that we can make in house, we will make in house. And so our bar setup's a little crazy, and it's beautiful, but I've been doing the cocktail menu there for a couple of years, as well as a couple other restaurants in downtown Lewisburg, as well as like master classes and private like parties and things like that, food pairing parties and things like that, where I would go into someone's house where they're hosting 8 to 10 people, and they have a tasting menu of like 9 different dishes, and I have to pair a cocktail per dish. So it's a different different like atmosphere when it comes to bartending. It's very very sophisticated. Sounds too
uppity.
high up.
Yeah.
So but it's just fun. It's nice. It's a whole different world, and once you get into that world, it's hard to get out of it. Honestly, it's amazing. It's a lot of fun. And it comes down to study of classic cocktail knowledge and knowledge of what's hot right now and what's going on. It's a really fun job. I really, really enjoy it. And of course, there are the times of like, you see it in movies and TV shows all the time of people just, being rude to servers and bartenders, anybody in service industry. It's just like, One of my bosses says this all the time, that tip culture is slave culture, and you do get those kind of customers a lot where they kind of feel like they own you. But it's one of those kill them with kindness kind of situations.
Yeah.
And you find ways to love it. And I really do love it. So that's where a lot of my creativity goes into, is menu creations and product ingredients and things like that. Which is I get a lot of joy out of that. It's a lot of fun, and it's something that has given me opportunities to do it in different cities. As you know, I'll be moving a little bit later now due to this pandemic, which is totally fine. Moving to New York City, kind of in the next few months, I would say, whenever we can get all through this and everybody's healthy. It opens a lot of doors, and you meet a lot of really cool people. It's just a whole other community, really.
That's awesome. So the creative aspect of the menus and stuff there at the inn is kind of how you funnel that whatever feelings, emotions you have through.
Yeah.
Do you do anything else? Because I know there for a while you were lifting and working out. Are you still doing that, or is that something that you kind of?
Oh man, it's been a minute. Oh man. Yeah, no, I go on and off of health kicks and whatnot.
Gotcha.
More off than on, I would say.
Well, the only reason I ask is because that's something me and Eli are very invested in. Not that everybody has to.
Eli's jacked now. That kid is jacked. He looks great, and so do you.
Well, I've gained quite a bit since having 2 kids, but I haven't gained as much as what most people do when having 2 kids and getting married. So I at least have that for me. But that's the reason I ask, is because me and Eli are very in that sphere. Do you do anything else as far as like mental health kind of self-care routine type things?
As much as I don't get to play music live, I do still play a lot of music at home. Which is really nice. Especially here recently, just being able to, turn out of my chair in my bed and just pick up my guitar and just kind of noodle around and be like, oh, that sounds cool. Remember that, Tyler. So there's not a lot that social. I like to hang out with a lot of people. So this part of this pandemic and quarantining is tough in that aspect. But I have a lot of really, really, really great friends who honestly take really good care of me mentally. And I'm really happy and grateful for that. I think it's really important to surround yourself by good people. And when it comes to my extremely amateur perspective of mental health, I think it is a very serious current issue that is rising more and more and more. But there's a lot of things that you have to do to give yourself a fighting chance, and eating well, doing some exercising, sunlight, hanging out with good people, surrounding yourself with positivity. There are so many very, very easy things on paper. They're easy, but sometimes they're really hard to do if you're in a depressed or anxious mindset. But I do think it's important to try as hard as you can to do those very simple things. Otherwise, you're not really giving yourself a fighting chance.
Well, the best thing with those things is to just pick one. Find one thing that you can control, fix that one thing, and it'll snowball. Because it's very easy, and I'm sure that you hanging out with the right people got you into dieting, into exercising, and it kind of snowballed into you just feeling better, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it all starts with choosing one thing, and then if it's lifting or if it's dieting, that puts you in the right mindset to find the kind of people that you want to be around, and that positivity helps you find more things that you want to do, and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things that compound on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, and I never really saw it that way. Of just picking one thing that is known and is a scientific fact to breed the endorphins or whatever fancy wordism is Just find that one thing that you can get into for a while, and if it sticks, it sticks. If not, it'll snowball into other activities, better people.
Papa John's.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and like I said, I'm really happy for the people that I'm around, and the people that I'm quarantined with. It's been fun. We try to find different things to do every day and keep ourselves busy. But yeah, I do think surrounding yourself with the right kind of people is extremely important. My older brother, for instance, is someone who I've looked up to for honestly my entire life, but he has been in and out of a lot of different troubles. I'll say I don't want to expose him, too much. But he, I think his best and worst quality is that he'll do anything for anybody.
Gotcha.
And sometimes that anybody is the wrong people, and he can get into the wrong situations. But sometimes it's the right people, and he has segments of his life that have been really awesome, and some that are not so awesome. So I think really surrounding yourself with people who amplify the person that you want to be, and really, help out your confidence and your positivity and all anything that is really good for you, and it's hard to get those things on your own. Not to be straight High School Musical, but we're all in this together. I think, that's one of the most important things for me, honestly.
Cool. I think just that little bit of perspective is a lot for some people, and your story might touch somebody that's been in the same kind of boat, and you having the kind of mental state that you're in. And a lot of people feel like you have to be in church to have that kind of mentality, and growing up in church is a lot of the reason that you are the way you are, but it doesn't mean that's who you are now. And I think that's important for people to realize that not everybody's going to think the same way that they do, and that's okay. I think that's better for the world, is to have different perspectives and to be able to talk to each other in that vein. So I think having you on was a real treat for our listeners, and to have a different kind of perspective than just me and Eli, and maybe not a professional opinion, but somebody who's had life experiences and who's in quarantine right now.
Yeah. Again, man, I think it's really, really amazing what you're doing, and trying to put out as much content as you can with as many different people as you can to try to get as many different perspectives is really important. For someone like me who grew up not going to church at all, and there was a time in my teens where I was very serious about it, and it was an amazing time. And I met people like you through Kendra. I think it's who we met through.
Yeah.
It's been so many years, man. It was like my freshman girlfriend, I think.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's I
long time ago.
So many amazing people in that time, and I think the extremely important mental quality that I hold on to of surrounding yourself by really uplifting people came from that time in church, of just like being surrounded by people like you and Eli and Ryan and Caleb and Ben and all those amazing people that I still hold dear to my heart to this day. Taught me a mental quality that I will forever hold on to, and that's giving yourself a fighting chance by being surrounded by the right kind of people.
And I think that for me is the most important thing. Take diet, exercise, the creativity out of it. Having the right kind of people around you is probably the easiest way to build yourself up, to build your confidence, and to have that kind of cleared mental state, and like you said, giving yourself a fighting chance. So I think that's the best way to do that, and probably the easiest way, because you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Yep.
So
very true. Very, very true.
So, well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. You got anything else you want to say before we hop off here?
Um, there's a lot of new merch from Sparrow Cloth online right now. It's pretty dope. I recommend picking some of that stuff up. And I'm excited to hop onto your podcast and continue listening to some of my other, some of my friends and some people that I don't know. So
Yeah.
just stay tuned, y'all.
And we'll do a recap with you here in a couple weeks, depending on how long we're actually in quarantine, and
Sure.
maybe we'll have Eli on so we can have the whole gang back together.
Oh, it'd be nice to see him.
Well, we'll wrap it up here. Like he said, we didn't pay him to say anything about Sparrow, but we do have some awesome merch on the website. We're doing code COVID-19 for 19% off your purchase.
Oh, snap. I didn't even know that. I might have to go pick up some more stuff.
Leave us a 5-star review. It helps out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right. Love you, buddy. See ya.
See you, buddy.